Welcome to Learn to Live Stress-Free. This is Christine Wright. For Robert Wright Jr., who's not here with us today, we're your go-to wellness coaches of www.stressfreenow.info. Our guest today is Wayne Manning, speaking on how to set and achieve life intentions. Wayne Manning, professional certified coach, has been involved in coaching since 1996, both as a learner and a facilitator. He is certified by the Academy for Coaching Excellence as a coach. Wayne became a coach instructor and course leader for the Academy upon graduation from its first graduating class of certified coaches in 2003. He leads or co-leads all of the core coach training courses and serves as a mentor coach for Academy student coaches. Wayne works closely with Academy founder, author, renowned life coach, and clinical psychologist Dr. Maria Nemeth. Together, they develop and conduct coach training workshops and seminars and continuing education webinars for aspiring coaches as well as experienced professional coaches. Their work at the Academy for Coaching Excellence attracts participants and coaches from across the United States and around the world. A longtime member of the Auburn, California Chamber of Commerce, Wayne served as president of the Chamber in 2014. He is an ordained Unity minister with 25 years' experience as a field minister, teacher, and administrator. He served on the Board of Trustees of Unity School of Christianity in Missouri and on the International Board of Trustees for the Association of Unity Churches. Wayne is also a member of the International Coach Federation, and he has earned the designation of Professional Certified Coach from that body. As a matter of fact, coaching helped him achieve one of his fondest dreams, becoming a certified flight instructor. Welcome, certified flight instructor. Thank you for being here again today, Wayne.
Thank you, Christine, for having me. I've so enjoyed our first conversation, and I'm grateful you asked me back again.
Yes, I thought it would just be really great to have you here to start off the new year. When I listened to you the last time, you just said so many things that struck a rich chord with me that I'm sure it also resonated with our audience. And Bob and I thought you were phenomenal. I know you say we're building you up, but I think it's well-deserved and quite true.
Well, thank you for that.
Now, Wayne, you've mostly been working with the Academy of Coaching Excellence and working as a mentor coach. Could you tell our audience a little bit about what you do?
Sure. Well, first, the Academy for Coaching Excellence is an ICF, or International Coach Federation, approved training school for coaches. And Maria, our founder and director, established that school in 2000. So it's about 15 years old now, and that followed about a previous 20 years' work by Maria in building her curriculum, her model, as we say, until she finally realized, there's a way to organize this and have people benefit from it who want to become coaches. And so we did that, and I joined her first in 1996. And so for 4 years, it was just taking courses and being in her presence and so on, without being a coach even a possibility. But she had this vision of organizing it into a way that people could learn and become certified themselves, and I really wanted to do that. So I took advantage of that in the first class, as you mentioned earlier, and graduated from the first class and quickly became a member of the faculty. My interest then and now lay in supporting other people to learn this work and to get themselves capable of delivering the work, which is the way, of course, coaching is spreading all over the world now, as people becoming interested in being a deliverer or a provider of coaching services. And that, to me, I wanted to do even more than coaching itself. I did a lot of coaching in the early years. Now I do more training, and you mentioned mentor coach, so I mentor our students, my share of them, throughout their training program, supporting them until they get themselves equipped to graduate and move on out and practice coaching for themselves. And so I do a bit of both. I do less and less what I call street coaching anymore, meaning having private clients, and more academy work as our offerings, especially online, are ramping up, and so that takes more time and also mentoring our students. It's something that has meant so much to me in more than the last decade, 12 years or so, that has really given me something to wake up for. And at my age, something to wake up for is useful. and so, again, looking forward all morning here to this conversation, because I know we're going to, get to talk about some things that are important to both of us and hopefully important to those listening today as well.
I think so, and I want to thank you for giving me a new term, street coaching. Is that a Wayne Manning original, or is that an official?
I hope it's not. I hope it's not offensive to anyone. It was just.
I actually think it's beautiful. My first introduction to coaching was walking, not on the street, but in the library, and I just happened to come up in this section in the library in, I think, the 80s, and I said, oh, this is interesting, and that was where I was first introduced to this type of work, and I've been on the fringes ever since until I jumped a little bit deeper in the pool myself.
Wonderful.
Wayne, you said something that is very dear to my heart as well as yours. The work of coaching is a model to globally have people live a more fulfilled, joy-filled life. I see it when I work with my individual clients that being able to identify what they want and work for it with a trained coach brings so much more ease into their life. And I especially like the model that you have, that Maria uses, of setting life intentions. And
yes.
At this time of year, people are reflecting, what did they do, what didn't they do? And could you just share with our audience what life intentions are and how you set those up?
Sure. It's our way of entering into what it means to set goals predicated on what is important to me. I'll use first person for clarity here. So if I can discover what's important to me in a broad sense, then I can discover, okay, how do I make that show up in my life, which would be a realized goal of some kind. So the life's intention is more an inner yearning to be known in a certain way or to show up in a certain way in the world, and then my goals would reflect that. And we frame our intentions as to-be statements. For example, to be physically fit and healthy, to be a successful artist or musician or sculptor, whatever that might be, to be a contributor to my community, to be a visionary leader, to be a well-respected professional, to be an effective manager. I mean, how do those sound, Christine, even as you hear me say them?
They sound as if you're really claiming it.
Yeah, and they're energizing in a way. I mean, and a lot of us would say, wow, I would love to be that. I'm not that right now. And that's okay, because it isn't, a life's intention sort of stands alone. It doesn't ask, am I currently doing anything about it? It stands as, this is what's important to me, and if I had my way, I would be having this show up in my life. And so we have this inventory that people can take, scoring a number of sample life's intentions, like I just mentioned, to be an effective healer, to be an adventurer, to be a successful communicator. There are a number of these, and people rank them from 1 to 5 without asking, am I currently doing anything about it? Just, is it important? Does it make my heart sing? And, of course, the 5s are the ones that are standing out today. These are the ones that are most important to me. And then we look at those, and as you say, claim it. This is true for me. This is how I want to show up. And then we have an arena in which to define any number of goals that would reflect that life's intention and bring some harmony and satisfaction and fulfillment to the person who is achieving the goal. And so it's like if we could draw like an imaginary line. On one side is visionary reality, what's inside me as my vision, and on the other side is physical reality. The life's intention is visionary, the goal is physical, and now I have a way to draw a direct line from one to the other and penetrate that barrier between vision and actualization so that the goal receives some energy. The hard thing for most of us, of course, is physical reality intervenes in our goal setting, and it's harder than we thought, and it's taking more time than we thought, and pretty soon we give up, often, or I do. But remembering my life's intention can keep me focused and energized to do what I need to do to achieve my goal.
Yes, and what I like about the life intentions is you giving a guideline to start off with, because sometimes some of us, we don't remember what is it that we want, what is it that we love, what are we looking to be connected to. So the process that you have of looking at this and going through this, I think for some people can stir the memories. What was it you said? Make your heart sing, so that you can connect back to the aspirations and the dreams that you have.
And sometimes we don't even know, because we haven't thought this way, we don't even know that it's a life's intention until we read the words and hear our voices say those words. Otherwise, it's some kind of unspoken yearning, a kind of the winter of our discontent kind of feeling. It's just something missing. But when I read those words, suddenly that's it. If I were doing that, if I were seeing that in my life, that would be so sweet. By the way, those of you listening, if you would like to have an inventory, I'll be happy to send you one. Just email me at wmanning@acecoachtraining.com, and I'm sure we'll repeat that toward the end. But wmanning@acecoachtraining.com, I'll send you out the PDF form, and you can look at this and take it yourself. You can take it over and over, because sometimes our interest will change over time. It's just today, what is important to me, and how is it I want to show up in my life?
Excellent. Thank you, listeners. If you do want to get your life intentions inventory, email Wayne, as he said. Wayne, what I have found is that sometimes we get in the habit of making lists and making lists and making lists, and we get overwhelmed by the list. And I like to save information, so I write things down, but I've become comfortable writing it down and putting it aside, because to get something done, you do need a certain level of focus. So when, at this time of year, you mentioned the winter of our discontent, we feel, people will make promises, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to get a better job, I'm going to have the perfect relationship, and you make this long list, but you don't get to do it by making a long list and feeling overwhelmed by your list.
Well, the ultimate is making a list of lists. I have a list of my lists.
I think it gets to that point. One of the things you had said in our last conversation, you spoke about the voices of doubt in your head. Of course, you don't have those anymore, and, mine are just so low in the background that it never stops me. What are some of the things that you train your coaches to do, or some of the ways that our listeners can bypass those voices?
Well, first of all, I think it's useful to recognize that voice of doubt and worry, is normal. There's nothing wrong with us that we have that. There's been a lot of work done that's very useful in neuroscience in the last decade or so. And neuroscientists are saying essentially our brain, the way it's wired, hasn't changed all that much in the last 100,000 years or so. The information we gather, of course, is different, but the brain processing, the brain wiring, the hardwiring, is about the same. And further, they say that our brain is wired for survival. It's wired to always look for a negative bias, because that's what keeps us surviving. And I love that view of it because, for example, back remembering when we lived in caves and among rocks, survival was pretty important, and we needed, for example, we can't run very far or we can't run very fast compared to a lot of others in the animal kingdom, and we needed a way to survive, and so we evolved this brain that always looks for what might go wrong, which when you think about it, under those conditions, is a pretty good trait to have. What might go wrong? Where's my nearest tree? What does that track mean that I'm looking at in the mud? Because, if we go out in the morning from our cave to get breakfast and we're not on the alert, we might wind up being breakfast, for someone else or something else.
Very true, yes.
And so we're wired for survival. Today, we don't need that so much in our current environment, and so our brain still looks for that, and it looks for it now in other aspects of our lives. And it's wired to worry. We call it monkey mind in our work. It's a kind of a neutral term that has a little bit of lightheartedness to it, but it's like and it's a Buddhist term. It's a monkey in a tree, swinging back and forth from doubt to worry and back to doubt again. It's that kind of voice. And so just recognizing it as the way our brain works under a certain kind of stress. I'm trying something new. I haven't done this before. I don't know if I can do it, and I have that conversation, having nothing to do with whether or not I can actually do it. But if I listen to it, it can slow me down or even stop me or have me say, okay, that doesn't work. Let me go to the next brilliant idea, only to have the same conversation again. And so we teach our students and remind ourselves as coaches, because this is a constant ongoing thing. That's not me. That's just how my brain works. Because in the moment of listening to it, it's real. It's very real. And so we stop, breathe, create this observational gap, remembering the nature of monkey mind, the nature of these thoughts. That's not me. That's just how my brain is working right now. Take a deep breath and see what promise and possibility lie beyond that conversation.
Yes, I think that's very true. The other thing, as I was listening to you, Wayne, I know comes up is there's that saying, the only constant is change. And in the world in which we live, there's so much change coming at us and so much information coming at us that many times our system, our mind, as you said, according to the neuroscience, is treating all these new activities, behaviors, information as a threat. So
exactly right. From the survival brain standpoint, change is dangerous. Please give me the status quo. Nothing changes. That would be monkey mind's position. Don't change on me.
Correct. Even if it's something good. I can't tell the stories I've heard. Bob and I have always enjoyed listening to the stories of the bride and groom. They're walking down the aisle or the day before the wedding. Are you sure you want to do this? Maybe we could wait.
We constantly, or up until now at least, for me, I can remember the times I've literally talked myself out of what turned out to be just fine, but I talked myself out of it and missed the opportunity, missed the boat, as we say, and someone else did it. So
yes.
And to avoid those kinds of regrets, it's useful to simply ask the question. First of all, breathe and then ask the question, what is the nature of this conversation right now? What is it for me? What's going on right now that I'm having this thought? And have a conversation with yourself about it, creating, again, that little observational gap. And pretty soon, we find we are breathing, and the conversation is just a conversation, and we begin to see possibility.
Yes. The other thing, Wayne, I think many in our audience today, with what the job market may be, or people may be a little more adventurous, many people are starting an entrepreneurial venture. And in that, there's constant newness. So recognizing that and doing something new, if you haven't done it before, there's a lot of not the saber-toothed tiger chasing you threat, but there's this threat of what am I doing, how am I going to do it? And that, I would imagine, also activates monkey mind.
It does, and we experience it as though it were a saber-toothed tiger. It's like our very survival depends on certain things happening, and as happens, one of the I mentioned before about crossing that invisible line from visionary to physical reality. There is a pushback, a natural pushback, because of the density. If we think about energy in physical reality is pretty dense. We have to do work in order for something to happen. In visionary reality, we have free, high energy. I can imagine my perfect house pretty quickly. I can build it in my mind, right? All
yes.
the gables and the double hung windows and all that stuff and the
gosh,
colors.
That sounds wonderful. I'm loving it.
I can do it instantly. But when I build that house in physical reality, it's going to take some work, energy, and sometimes we are surprised by the amount of energy it takes beyond what we expected. It's like, watching, one of my favorite things to witness is a space shuttle launch. And watching that thing slowly lift, that huge thing slowly lift off the ground until it whooshes and it's gone. And the people who understand that stuff say that shuttle system, of course we don't have them now, but when it was operating, it burned about 90% of its fuel in the first 3 minutes of flight, just escaping Earth's gravity, Earth's natural gravity. And so pushback in physical reality for an entrepreneur is normal and natural and to be expected. And when we factor that into our planning, into our visioning, and take small steps and get ourselves some support, then we can navigate those surprises, those things that we weren't expecting. We can navigate them far easier than if we go in with no thought at all about the nature of physical reality. I hope I'm not rambling too much with that.
You're not at all. And as you were speaking, I was thinking, aha, there's an assignment for Wayne. Invent something to eliminate pushback.
Anti-gravity.
And that will take care of it. As you talk about this, what comes to mind is the concept of basic assumptions that Maria lays out so beautifully in her book, Mastering Life's Energies. What is it? I mean, I know when I took Mastering Life's Energies and I discovered my basic assumption, I was shocked that this was at play in my life the way it is. How does this come about, and what have you seen in your students and when you've worked with them and they've come across and they've come face-to-face with their basic assumption?
Well, one way to describe the basic assumption, and folks, Christine just mentioned a book called Mastering Life's Energies by Maria Nemeth. That's available wherever books are sold, Amazon or any of the bookstores, and it's worth your read. It's like having a private conversation with Maria, and she talks about these things that we're talking about today as only she can because she invented most of the terminology about it. And basic assumption, we talked about monkey mind, this negative this negative self-conversation that we have. Our basic assumption is like a mother of all those conversations. It's like the core conversation that is so core we don't recognize it objectively until we experience something like the exercise Maria does, where this is revealed to us. And it's what we call our showstopper. It's the thing that comes up whenever we're at the border, at that line I've been talking about. We're at the border. We call it trouble at the border. And that's exactly
really
what
is trouble.
It
really
is.
is trouble.
And our basic assumption comes up in such a way that it's real, we don't question it, and it will stop our show. And so learning to recognize basic assumption means I can now truly see monkey mind for what it is, that conversation that I have whenever I'm up to something new, something big. Maria, the best she can define it, and this is just a way to get our minds around it because it's one of those things that, we explain as best we can. Maria says that it's an assumption that we made about life, about the world, about ourselves or other people very early in life, sometimes something around a year old, maybe 18 months old. It's like our first big no to life. And it's like our window then that we unconsciously view our lives through. And there's such things as I can't, I don't know, I'm not sure, there's something wrong with me. Mine is this isn't it. So whenever I'm up to something new and it starts to overpower me, the doubts, come thick and fast, suddenly for me, the thing that I thought I wanted so much to do is not it at all. I can't even connect with it. I can't relate to it. It disappears from my vision. This isn't it. Let's go to something else. This isn't it. And so up until I discovered it, I wouldn't say that. I would just act on it. I would simply turn away from whatever my dream was and go to something else because that wasn't it. Others are, like Maria's is, I can't. And she'll have sometimes an "I can't fit," where she just melts. She can't follow through and do anything. Or she'll do the converse, which is "I can too. Watch me," and take a rash action of some kind, an action that isn't thought through. And so, learning that, again, as I said earlier, it's the way our brains work. It isn't who we are. Then we have some sense of a way to engage it. The thing is, neither monkey mind nor basic assumption will ever go away. I mean, wonderful if it did. And if I could invent that, Christine, I'd be onto something. It doesn't go away, but we can shift our attention. Once we recognize it, we can shift our attention to something more interesting and make it part of the background noise. You know, we all have background noise in our lives. And when we can put monkey mind and basic assumption into the background and focus on something more interesting, like the goal or dream that we have, then we have a way to move forward. And so it's managing our brains, basically, in a way that we've never thought we could up until now, with neuroscience and people like Maria seeing ways to counteract what the brain wants to do on its own.
That was so beautiful. I think, I just really want to recap here what you said in terms of knowing our life intentions and setting it and realizing that nothing is wrong with us. And when we know that, when we can identify our basic assumption and realize this big no that we mightn't recognize in words, but that it's our reason for not doing or not acting on our dreams, then we can say, okay, I got this, and we can start the workaround.
Yep.
And this does, I think, when you said this doesn't go away, it plays a role in life. It is there for our survival, but it's not necessarily working in the right situation at the right time.
Exactly. You know, the British have a saying in their government. It's called the loyal opposition. It's a way to speak benignly about the other party. And
correct.
we can do that with monkey mind. It's like our loyal opposition. In fact, here's the interesting thing about this for me. When I am having a ration of monkey mind myself, really that's a signal that I'm up to something big. It's a sign I'm doing something right, or I wouldn't be worried. You know, I wouldn't have this thought if I weren't up to something that's important to me. Because monkey mind, you know, we go to the movies and get lost in the film. We don't have very much monkey mind, right?
Right.
So whenever monkey mind emerges for me, it means I'm up to something, and so it's a pretty good sign. It's a signal to me that, okay, let's look at this. Let's resolve this monkey mind, see it for what it is, and keep moving forward.
I think that's a great way to put it, and it is important to be discerning and to see what it is, because sometimes, you know, as the robot in Lost in Space said, danger, danger, Will Robinson.
Danger,
sometimes
yeah.
there is a real danger, and then you do want to pay attention to monkey mind and your basic assumption. But you need
Exactly.
to discern the situation at hand. Is this something I should be moving toward or moving away from?
Such an important distinction, you know, because monkey mind isn't about something not being true. The fact is the fact. Like, I have no money. That might be literally true. In a given moment of time, it could be true that I have no money. The question is, what is the nature of my conversation about it? If it's defeatist monkey mind kind of conversation, then I'm kind of stuck until that's over. If I can quickly resolve the awfulness of that, you know, the negative talk about that, then I'll be able to see, okay, what do I do about it? What do I do next? And so a fact is a fact. The monkey mind part is what's the nature of my conversation about the fact.
Excellent. All right. Audience, Wayne and I will be back in a moment on Learn to Live Stress-Free. I'm speaking with Wayne Manning of the Academy for Coaching Excellence.
Have you been procrastinating about completing an important project or pursuing a treasured dream? Christine Wright specializes in helping her coaching clients to lay out clear, goal-achieving strategies. She shows you how to quickly build your confidence and uncover and eliminate your habitual patterns of resistance and self-sabotage. Let Christine help you discover those meaningful insights that will get you to do what works so you can celebrate your successes. Go to stressfreenow.info/contact to let Christine know that you're ready to live your ideal life. Again, that's stressfreenow.info/contact. Are you dealing with stress burnout, chronic pain, anxiety, or unresolved grief? Hi, this is Dr. Robert Wright, Jr., the Stress Relief Doctor. I'm an author, speaker, and stress management wellness coach, co-host of the Learn to Live Stress-Free Now podcast series. I hold a PhD in Transformative Studies and a master's degree in psychology. I am the author of the first published study to show the connection between stress reduction, grief recovery, and nitric oxide spiking and the relaxation response. I also have a wealth of practical knowledge which helps you to relieve the stresses of everyday life so that you can live longer and play with your grandchildren. Work with me, and I'll give you the tools that you need to dissolve your pain points easily and effortlessly. Email me to find out how you can start to feel better now at stressfreenow.info/contact. That's stressfreenow.info/contact.
Welcome back to Learn to Live Stress-Free. Today, I'm speaking with Wayne Manning of the Academy for Coaching Excellence. Wayne, before the break, we were talking about the basic assumption, and we had mentioned Maria's book, Mastering Life's Energy, and I would like you to tell our audience a little bit about your flagship course that goes with that. I took that course because it's just something that has been on my list that I was avoiding because of my basic assumption. And it was so freeing when I took that. And this isn't necessarily for folks who want to be trained as a coach. This is something that anyone can take, correct?
Absolutely, and I think describing it as our flagship course is right on. It's our basic course to lay the groundwork for the principles that Maria teaches. And really there aren't that many. It's that the principles that we do have get unfolded in a deeper and deeper way through the courses as a person takes them. Mastering Life's Energies lays the foundation for all of that. And if a person does want to become a coach in our program, it's a required course. It's the first course they take. But as you said, anyone can take it because it is about mastering the energies of my life. The subsequent courses building on that foundation, if one wants to become a coach, help us understand how to support other people in mastering the energies in their lives, as a coach would do, for example. But back to, we call it MLE, Mastering Life's Energies. It gives us a toolkit, for example, learning how to observe the monkey mind and basic assumption. That's a skill set. One of the things I love about the way Maria frames things is whenever I find I can't do something or I'm, quote, stuck, unquote, in something, it isn't because there's something wrong with me necessarily or that I'm deficient in some way. I just need a skill set. And learning to observe monkey mind is a skill. Well, here's a great example, Christine. What would be your favorite car? If someone just gave you a car, what would it be?
Your Jaguar XJ6, please.
Ooh, what color?
Midnight blue.
Is this leather too?
Oh, yes. Cream leather
Okay,
interior.
all leather midnight blue.
Yes.
All leather midnight blue Jaguar. And you're at the Jaguar dealer and they're handing you the keys to your new Jaguar and you get in it and it smells wonderful and you fire it up. The only problem is you've never learned to drive. Would it be a
minor
good idea?
detail.
Would it be a good idea to take the car out on the street at that point, especially with the horsepower that puppy has?
Absolutely not.
What's going to happen? Most likely
a crash.
Yeah, and you're going to hurt yourself maybe or other people, certainly ding up the car and maybe other cars as well. Now, is there anything wrong with the car?
No, not
Is there
a
anything
thing.
wrong with you?
No, not a thing, except that minor missing skill. That
exactly.
skill of knowing how to drive.
And the good news is you can learn how to drive.
Yes.
And Monkey Mind would say, but wait a minute, what about that person over there, the quadriplegic? We're not talking about those kinds of exceptions. We're talking about 99% of the time, you and I simply can ramp up a skill set that we need in a given moment and do what we thought was going to be impossible because we thought there was something wrong, something missing, something that I'll never be able to do, when it's just acquiring a skill set. And that is correct so much of the time that we could call it a principle in terms of how to address life's issues. And whatever exceptions there are extenuating circumstances, which, of course, life has. But we're talking about what's practical for us most of the time for most people. And so learning how to drive the car means that we can safely take our Jaguar out. Learning a skill set that would apply to one of our entrepreneurial goals is just that. Get the skill set, take the time to get the skill set in order to navigate that border and get our dream realized. We will become a successful entrepreneur as opposed to going to the next entrepreneurial idea, only to most likely be doomed in the same way because we aren't getting the skills we need. And Mastering Life's Energies is full of skill building like that.
I think once we break things down that way, Wayne, it's really understandable and manageable. And I think that, dampens that monkey mind and those voices of doubt. You mentioned time here, and that's one of the energies that Maria talks about. And I know today many people feel so pressured for time because there's so many choices and so much new information. What are some of the tools that coaching uses, or in terms of your skill, to master that energy of time, especially in this day and age with the media bombardment that many of us are subject to?
Yeah, we live today in sound bites, and we're sort of inundated with things that load up our time. You said a moment ago, breaking it down, and we do the same thing with this energy called time. And it is useful, I think, to describe it as an energy, much like we describe physical vitality as an energy. Well, time is an energy as well, as is money. Money is an energy. And when we think about them as commodities that we use wisely or not so wisely, it can be helpful. I mean, for example, what is our favorite excuse for not doing something we really want to do? I don't have the
time.
What? Or
I don't have the time.
Or the money
I don't
to
have
do it.
the.
Exactly.
I don't have the money. I don't have the energy.
But you know what? We all have the same amount of time, and to break it down can be helpful. 1,440 minutes is the number of minutes we have in a 24-hour day. True for me, true for you, true for somebody like President Obama, who's faced with who knows how many decisions every day, things he has to pay attention to. Same 1,440 minutes. What am I doing with them? And so often just to do a little personal time study can be helpful. Write them down. What am I doing with my windows of time? Maria summed it up for me when she once said, look, we have 1,440 minutes in a day. What if we took just 10 minutes a day and did something that was developing ourselves? It could be reading a book. It could be taking an archery lesson. 10 minutes a day. It could be sitting down to paint, do a watercolor because you love watercolors. 10 minutes a day. That's all. She said, if you do that 10 minutes a day at the end of a year, you will have done that for over 60 hours. That's the equivalent of a college course. I thought, wow, 10 minutes a day. How many of my 10-minute windows do I sort of splurge doing something else with no return at all, or even a negative return, So looking at my time in slices can be very useful, and taking the time with some support, even in prioritizing. I once heard a woman who was head of one of the government agencies talking about how she managed her busy day. She made, in the morning when she would get up, she would make a to-do list and then cross everything off except the top two. I thought that's very interesting.
I like that.
Yeah, and leave the top two and do those and do them well. Farm out the others if they need to be done. Do some delegation. That's one of the things that we Westerners are a little poor at, too, is delegating, a lot of us. We would rather do it ourselves because we think we can do it faster and better until we get totally overwhelmed and we're not doing it at all. So breaking time down getting support. I can't overemphasize the importance of support, which is what that woman was doing I just mentioned. It wasn't that she was ignoring what needed to be done. She was looking at what can be done by me. And she realized if she had 19 things on her list, that was going to run together, and probably not much is going to happen on any one of them. But to mark them all off except the top two, have other people do those remaining 17. I'll do these two well. And that's a whole different, way to engage our time and our use of time. And so it's like, being as smart about our time as we hope we are about our money, as we hope we are about our physical vitality.
That makes absolute sense. The part of what I do with time, too, which helps me to actually get more time, is to sit and do nothing, to have those quiet times in the day that are just for me, where I'm not knocking something off my list, because sometimes I get so caught up in my list, and that may happen for some of our listeners, that just causes undue anxiety and tension when, as you say, if we farm the work out, if we delegate, we've freed up that much more time in our life. And one of the other things that we don't always realize is that time is a construct. So it's really our choice, and it's easy to forget that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We invented time and then let it overtake us somehow.
We certainly did. Now, one of the things that I know that I've been, let me use the word guilty of in the past, I think I'm completely over it. Really I am. But we have a business of comparing ourselves to others, and part of it is our structures. I had been a teacher, and the entire thing in the classroom is we're measuring ourselves, we're measuring our performance, but that can really get caught up within our identity, and we get that feeling of we're not good enough, that there is something wrong with us. In trying to achieve a goal, that it can be easy to say we're wrong and not look at it as a task and a skill. Could you speak a little bit to that, Wayne, of how we don't beat up on ourselves when things aren't going the way we planned?
Yeah, and you mentioned comparison, I think. We have identified, some monkey mind symptoms, and comparison is one of them. When we find ourselves comparing ourselves with someone else, for example, in a negative way, it is one of those monkey mind conversations that has no basis in reality necessarily. For example, one way to describe when I compare myself with someone else in my field and I come out on the short end of the comparison, what I'm doing is comparing my insides with that person's outsides. And that's not a fair comparison. I don't know what it's like in there for them. I'm just looking at something on the surface for that person and basing my whole sense of identity or success/failure on what I see. But there's no way I'm seeing that whole person's experience. I'm just making a false comparison about what it's like for me on the inside to what I see on the outside. So again, recognizing that as a brain function, the way my synapses are wired, can be helpful. And again, whenever I'm experiencing not being able, I'm experiencing being stuck in some fashion, I'm experiencing not up to the task, that's when a coach or a supportive buddy who understands and who sees me for who I am, who won't collude with my monkey mind. And that's so important, that we have people around us who don't collude with our monkey mind and just increase the conversation, but who hold us accountable for who we really are. A hero on a hero's journey, right now having an experience of monkey mind. If I can tell a quick story about how Maria experienced this when she was writing, I think, her second book. She did a smart thing. She got some of her girlfriends to call her every morning. They took turns, I think 3 of them, calling her every third day to support her in her promise to write 3 pages a day. That was, 3 pages a day, if you're an author, 3 pages a day is like 3 manuscripts a year. And so her promise was to write 3 pages a day. And she had these girlfriends who would call her and say, Maria, yes. Are you up? Yes. Are you at your computer? Yes. Is it turned on? Yes. And how many pages are you going to write? I'm going to write 3 pages today, and thank you, and I'll let you know tomorrow how I did. And then that, sure, like a 30-second call of support. And they would hang up, and she would get about writing. Well, she got a call one morning, and it was already ugly in her day. It wasn't going well, and she was feeling like she had nothing left to say. She was trying to start a new chapter, and it just wasn't coming. Now, Maria's basic assumption, remember, is I can't. And whenever she's faced with that dilemma, she just has a meltdown. And so her girlfriend called and said, Maria, yes. Are you up? Yes. Are you at computer? Yes. Is it turned on? Yes. And how many pages are you going to write today? And Maria just broke down, as she describes it. And she had like a 10-minute snot fest, to put it grossly, just weeping, and I can't do this. Nobody will read it if I write it. I have nothing to say. And her friend, when Maria finally stopped and took a breath, her friend said, Maria, I hear you, honey. And how many pages are you going to write today? In a lighthearted, gentle way, holding her to her promise, not colluding with her monkey mind. We need people like that around us. That's part of that support that we all need. From our coach, who will engage us in a professional way, to our friends whom we trust with our dreams, who will stand in our corner with us like that woman did for Maria, and not collude with their monkey mind and increase that voice.
That's absolutely it. Having that supportive community and having someone that has your back.
Yeah.
In that firm, gentle way. They're on your side, they're on your side, and they're not going to collude with monkey mind, as you say.
But one of the skill sets in mastering life's energies, we encourage, as you remember, we encourage participants to carry. We have everybody have a check-in buddy, everybody who's willing to do this. They have a check-in buddy, and they might check in with each other daily for several months after the course. And we've had people do it for years after the course because they find that it works. And so having support, building the skill set of support and having that go beyond the course is one of the things I think that makes that course have a shelf life longer than many of the trainings we've had in other kinds of settings.
Right. Also, I know with my buddy, we had the same understanding. We had the same basic experience to start with. So we had a commonality, we had a common understanding, a framework, a connection to begin with, that we understood the process and we were in total agreement. Because I think sometimes people may not have a supportive community. They may not know what are the components of the buddy that they want to help them. I think the easiest thing that maybe many of us have done is, I really need to go out there and take a walk. I'll give you a call. We'll meet outside at 6 a.m. We'll walk around the block, or we'll walk for 5 minutes, and then we'll head off to work or what have you. But having that accountability, having someone there to be a check for you that, yes, I'm doing this.
And one of the ways, I'm glad you say this, because not everyone will have available to them other graduates of the course. They just have their regular friends. And one of the ways to take a little bit of a shortcut to support is simply to, pick one of those friends that is in our corner in their hearts. They're not out to undo us in any way. They want to support us, and they may not know how exactly. So you can say to them, look, I am about to do this thing here. I'm about to write this book. I'm about to plan this concert I'm going to perform, and I have a lot of doubts about that, and here's how you're going to know when I'm doubting, and give them a couple of the ways you're likely to show up when you're in doubt mode, and have your friend watch for that and call you on it when you're doing it. Now you've given them a tool to work with, so they'll be watching for a certain look in your eye or tone of your voice or whatever clues you give them. This is how I'll show up when I'm having one of those fits that I sometimes have, and I want you to call me on it and snap me out of it. Will you do that? And your friend is going to say, of course I will. And so you can enlist support like that, and in the meantime, they're getting a little bit of education on how support works. Arm them about what to look for, and many people build support networks that way, and the other people don't know anything about this work necessarily or the course or any of that, but they understand what you want from them.
Yes, and Wayne, I think that is just a great way to do it because, as you said, it's a skill and we can educate our friends even if they are not familiar with the work. We have that baseline friendship, and we know our people, so we can ask them and they can do this for us. Well, Wayne, I really want to thank you for spending this time with us today and just sharing so much great information. Wayne, you've mentioned this before, so I want you to take this time to, again, give your email information and the website. And if you could, how often, I know people, I believe you have to go to Sacramento. It's basically giving Mastering Life's Energies. Could you tell our listeners a little bit more about that and how they could get involved with that or experience that?
Sure. And so once again, my email is W Manning, that's MANNING with W in front, W Manning, all together, like one word, at acecoachtraining, all together, like one word, .com. ACECOACHTRAINING is commonspelling.com. That'll get to me. Our website is the same thing, just acecoachtraining.com. And it's pretty comprehensive. It has the calendar on the front page and several things you can look at and, see what we're up to. And one of the best ways to learn what we're currently doing is simply look at that website. You'll see a full page on the Mastering Life's Energies course when it's going to be held next, which is in March in Sacramento. Once in a while, we'll do them somewhere else. We have a fairly strong user base or, client base in Omaha, Nebraska. So once a year or so, we'll do that course in Omaha. Once in a while, we'll do one in Southern California around the Los Angeles area, but mostly in Sacramento. Or if you find yourself in Stockholm, it's usually done twice a year in Stockholm, who wouldn't want to go to Stockholm? So the website is your best friend. And again, now that you have my email address, I'm happy to answer any questions that any of you would have about what we do and, how to get more information.
Okay, great. Thank you, Wayne. So listeners, you can contact Wayne at his email, which is his name, his first initial last name, W Manning at acecoachtraining.com, and you can take a look at the website, acecoachtraining.com, to learn more about the offerings of the Academy. And Wayne, could you tell me, are Maria's videos, I believe I saw quite a few new videos, is that on the Ace Coach Training site?
Yes. In fact, let me tell you precisely where. And by the way, I'd love to send all of you that Life's Intentions inventory that we mentioned earlier. Yeah, you look across the top, there are some drop-down menus about the Academy, and the one on the far right is Resources and News. If you drop down Resources and News, you'll see radio/podcast, on which this one that we're doing right now will be posted, as is my previous one and the one you did with Maria, and other things Maria has done are posted there. Then you have a selection called Videos, and it has Maria's current videos, quite a few of them that are YouTube-based, but we have links to them right from here, which are the easy way to get to them. So, and she does, and they're very watchable, and most of them very short.
They're informative, but they're also funny. They make me laugh.
They are. She is, Maria is one of the, to spend 3.5 days with her in Mastering Life's Energies is not only a treat in terms of the transformational possibilities, but just being with a genuine human being that is so transparent. You're with the real thing when you spend time in Maria's presence. It's sort of that's what I walked away with 20 years ago when I first met her. That's never changed. Maria is Maria, and she is entertaining. She's brilliant. She's humble. She's all of those things that you would want in a teacher and a confidant and a coach.
She truly is, and I do want to say, Wayne, I had said this to Maria when Bob and I had interviewed her, and you mentioned it in your last visit with us, that coaching is a way to re-educate all of us. I had said to Maria, I said, this would be wonderful to have this in our school system. That these are skills that the earlier we learn them and the better we learn them, the easier life will be. I think her statement of clarity, focus, ease, and grace, when we can walk through our day with that, it makes us stronger.
Yes. There are some people right now working on some curriculum designed especially for that interval between high school and college, which can be one of the more troubling times for young people, is when they're making decisions that are going to impact the rest of their lives. Making that transition in whether it's to college or to a field of craftsmanship or whatever it's going to be, how to make an informed decision is important, and we believe that this work can help.
That's really exciting news. Thank you. So, Wayne, as we close the show today, what final thoughts would you like to share with our audience?
Well, first of all, to thank you and Bob again so much for asking me to come and do this. I think, every time any of us have an opportunity to talk about these ideas, they get out there in the ethers again, and I'm not going to wax all metaphysical here, but it's useful. I mean, there's so much else in our ethers today that this can only be helpful, this kind of conversation, in helping people become more grounded, helping this thing that we call coaching move ever farther across ideological borders, across racial borders, across cultural borders, across all those borders, and just know that for all of us, there is support waiting for us just around the corner. But we have to turn the corner ourselves, and that's what I'm in the business of, is helping people become corner turners in their lives and finding what's there around them already. But it's having the eyes to see and the ears to hear, and I think coaching is one of the professions that help uncloud our vision and unstop our ears so that we're hearing and seeing differently. And I think that can happen anywhere on the planet. And I think these conversations like this 1 hour we've spent together is one more seed we're planting, one more drop of good information we're putting out there that can bless the people who hear it. And so thank you for making this possible.
Thank you so much, Wayne. And yes, I think turning the corner to support, I'll add it to the life intention list to choose to turn that corner to support. So thank you again for being our featured guest today, Wayne. And I know our audience has enjoyed listening to you, and I'd like to thank you, our listeners, for listening in wherever you are, in whatever time zone you're in right now. We welcome and look forward to receiving your comments about the show. Please let us know if there are topics you'd like to see us cover or a fun guest like Wayne that you'd like us to invite back. Please contact us through our website with your feedback and suggestions. Remember, listeners, if you'd like to experience the same benefits our coaching clients get with us and learn how to have more free time in your day, including easy ways to dissolve your chronic pain, stress, and anxiety, then give us a call at 954-900-2179. Mention that you heard our Stress Free Now podcast show and your first session is free. Call today to schedule your appointment. For Dr. Robert Wright, Jr., this is Christine Wright of www.stressfreenow.info. Until next time, be safe and be well.